The Women's National Basketball Association is currently experiencing what can only be described as a magnitude 10 earthquake, and the epicenter is right in the heart of Indianapolis. Just when you thought the Indiana Fever had assembled the perfect roster to make a legitimate run for the 2026 championship, an absolute bombshell has dropped out of training camp. The front office is reportedly in pure panic mode, and the locker room might already be fractured before the first official tip-off of the season. What I'm about to tell you has set the entire internet on fire, and if you are a fan of Caitlin Clark, you are going to be absolutely furious. Major sports analysts and WNBA insiders are now openly suggesting that the Indiana Fever's head coach, Stephanie White, alongside general manager Amber Cox, are intentionally sabotaging their own generational superstar. Yes, you heard that right. The most popular basketball player on the planet is allegedly being restrained, restricted, and sabotaged by the very people who are paid to help her win. But why would any coach in their right mind try to hold back a player like Caitlin Clark? Stick with me, because the rabbit hole goes deeper than you think, and it exposes a massive power struggle brewing behind closed doors.
To truly understand the magnitude of this betrayal, we have to rewind for just a second. Coming into the 2026 season, the hype surrounding the Indiana Fever was at an all-time high. Caitlin Clark had spent the last 8 months recovering, getting stronger, and preparing to unleash absolute havoc on the league. The front office handed out massive, historic contracts to Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell. Everyone assumed the game plan was simple: surround Caitlin Clark with elite talent, give her the keys to the offense, and watch her break every assist and scoring record in the book. Caitlin is, without a shadow of a doubt, the most dangerous offensive engine in the league. Her superpower is her court vision, her ability to push the pace in transition, and her gravity that forces 2 or 3 defenders to guard her at all times. She is the ultimate point guard. But according to shocking new leaks coming directly out of the Fever's closed-door training camp sessions, coach Stephanie White has decided to strip Caitlin of her primary superpower.
Reports indicate that Stephanie White is forcing a brand new offensive scheme down the throats of the Indiana Fever roster. Analysts are already dubbing it the anti-Clark system. Instead of the fast-paced, run-and-gun offense that made Caitlin Clark a household name and a global icon, Coach White is reportedly implementing a slow, grinding, half-court offense. And here is the most shocking part. It is being described as a no-point guard system. The leaks suggest that the coaching staff is actively trying to take the ball out of Caitlin Clark's hands. During practice scrimmages, instead of letting Caitlin bring the ball up the floor and dictate the flow of the game, she is being relegated to a spot-up shooter role. Imagine having a Ferrari in your garage and deciding to only drive it in a school zone at 20 miles per hour. It makes absolutely no sense. Witnesses at the training camp claim that whenever Caitlin tries to push the tempo or look for her signature deep transition three-pointers, you can hear the coaching staff yelling from the sidelines, telling her to slow down and run the set play.
This brings us to the ultimate question. Is this just a bad coaching philosophy? Or is there something more sinister at play? Many basketball purists and loyal fans are leaning toward the latter. You see, Stephanie White comes from a very specific background. Before taking over the Fever, she coached the Connecticut Sun to top-tier defensive ratings. She is a defensive-minded coach who believes in a rigid, structured system where the coach is the undisputed boss. Her philosophy relies on a collective team effort, where no single player outshines the system itself. But when you are coaching Caitlin Clark, the player is bigger than the system. The player's aura, media attention, and sheer talent overshadow everyone else in the building, including the head coach. Many insiders believe that this is an ego trip. They suspect that Coach White wants to prove that her genius system wins championships, rather than admitting that simply letting Caitlin Clark cook is the best strategy. By forcing a ball movement-heavy, slow-paced offense, she is intentionally trying to distribute the spotlight, essentially clipping the wings of the greatest offensive talent the league has seen in decades.
And it is not just the head coach who is catching the heat. The fingerprints of general manager Amber Cox are all over this brewing disaster. If you look closely at the off-season moves the Fever made, the puzzle pieces start to form a very concerning picture. Yes, they signed great defensive players like Maisha Hines-Allen and Monique Billings. On paper, adding toughness and rebounding is a great idea, but look at how these players fit into a pace and space offense. Are they the kind of agile, floor-spacing athletes that thrive when Caitlin Clark is throwing no-look passes in transition? Or are they traditional, physical players drafted specifically to fit Stephanie White's slow-grind, half-court mentality? It feels as though the front office built a roster for a completely different style of basketball, completely ignoring the fact that their franchise cornerstone needs shooters and runners to operate at her maximum potential. The strategy coming from the Fever management seems to be focused on not relying too heavily on Caitlin. They want a balanced team identity. But history tells us that this is a recipe for disaster. You do not build a balanced team when you have a generational anomaly. You do not ask Michael Jordan to just be a role player in a democratic offense. You do not ask Stephen Curry to stop shooting from the logo so the rest of the team can get some touches. You build the entire universe around your star. By actively restraining Caitlin under the guise of team basketball, the Fever management is committing basketball treason, and the fans are absolutely not having it. The fallout from these reports has been catastrophic, sending shockwaves of panic all the way up to the highest offices of the WNBA. The fans are revolting. Social media platforms are flooded with thousands of angry posts from Fever fans who are demanding immediate intervention. Hashtags calling for Stephanie White to be fired are already trending, and the season hasn't even officially started yet. Fans are threatening a massive boycott. Let's be brutally honest about the economics of the WNBA right now. Caitlin Clark is the golden goose. She is the reason arenas sell out. She is the reason television ratings have skyrocketed by hundreds of %, and she is the reason new television deals are worth millions of dollars. The fans do not buy tickets to watch Stephanie White's half-court defensive rotations. They buy tickets to see Caitlin Clark drop 30 points and 10 assists while hitting shots from the parking lot. If this anti-Clark system actually makes it to opening night, and fans are forced to watch Caitlin standing passively in the corner while role players pass the ball around the perimeter, the economic backlash will be swift and brutal. We are talking about cancelled season tickets, a massive drop in viewership, and a PR nightmare that the league simply cannot afford. WNBA executives are reportedly sweating bullets over this controversy because they know that if the Fever suppress Caitlin's numbers, the casual fans who tuned in solely for her will simply tune out. The WNBA needs Caitlin Clark to be an MVP candidate. They need her highlights going viral every single night. The league's growth is entirely dependent on her success and entertainment value. For a single coaching staff to jeopardize that because of ego or stubbornness is not just bad for the Indiana Fever, it is a threat to the financial stability of the entire league. Behind the scenes, inside sources are claiming that damage control is already underway. Management is reportedly having tense meetings, trying to figure out how to address the leaks without making the situation worse. Caitlin Clark, being the ultimate professional, has remained silent on the issue.
She has always been a team-first player who refuses to throw her coaches or teammates under the bus publicly. But if you watch the leaked footage carefully, her body language tells a completely different story. You can see the frustration, you can see the confusion of a brilliant basketball mind being told to ignore her elite instincts. She knows what it takes to win, and she knows that playing restricted basketball is not the answer.
Now, all eyes are locked onto the rapidly approaching opening night. The pressure on Stephanie White is absolutely immense, unlike anything any WNBA coach has ever faced. She has two choices. She can either swallow her pride, scrap this restrictive system, and hand the keys to the offense back to the player who rightfully owns them. Or she can stubbornly dig her heels in, force her half-court offense, and risk alienating the biggest fan base in women's sports history, while potentially throwing away a championship season. The stakes literally could not be higher. So, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think is really going on inside the Indiana Fever locker room? Do you believe that Coach Stephanie White is genuinely trying to sabotage Caitlin Clark's stats to push her own coaching agenda? Or do you think the media and fans are just overreacting to a normal training camp adjustment?